So we're going to start with our Hubs and Governance report, and that's from Graham Pegg. So thank you, Graham.
Good evening, everybody. Just to update you, since the last meeting, we've all the synods met at the end of April, and we're pleased to say that all the resolutions that were proposed for future governance and some appointments were all quite clearly passed by all of the synods. So that is very good news and enables us to keep progressing in the way that we have been up to now. And so we've also, following on from that, since the synods, we've written to all the superintendents of all the circuits across the new district, remembering that we're going to be district number 1 onto the new structure. So your circuit will be 1 oblique whatever. We've written to all the superintendents requesting that the circuits make their nominations to the North West England Synod that will meet first of all in September the 14th at Victoria Hall in Bolton. I know most circuits will probably have a circuit meeting during this period over the next couple of months, but if you don't, if you can arrange to have a meeting or arrange the voting so that we do in due course get all of the names of all the people who are going to be members of the synod from the 1st of September when the new district is formed. Our second major piece of work that we're working on, of course, is the expressions of interest forms, which we're pleased to say still keep coming in. People are still expressing interest in serving in the new district, and we're working on that. And some people may think that perhaps it's taken a while longer than you'd expect, but then we would ask the patient, because we are doing these under the Methodist structures of equal opportunities and safer training. So it does take a while to collate all of the information and sort it all out, etc. And we have plans to maybe to approach some people who are currently serving in their existing districts in various capacities to see if they're willing to continue or to serve in the same sort of way in the new districts. So that'll is about to happen. And we just keep pressing on with everything that needs to be done, and including getting the charity registration sorted out as well. So I think that's a brief summary from the Hubs and Governance Group.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Graham. We're now going to move to Ruth Jackson, and she's going to update us on the staffing subgroup. Thank you, Ruth.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to be with you all today. So we've been involved in the drawing up of various job descriptions and person specifications. So at the moment, to update, we're working with the property subgroup on the district property secretary role. The other major task that we're undertaking is concerning our lay employees. As you're aware, with forming of the new district, the child status we're taking on is that of the mentioned Stockwood district, which of course will be renamed. But it means that on a practical point, all of our employees are going to be transferred via a legal process called 2P, which is Transfer of Undertakings, Protection of Employment Regulations. So we're in the process of sorting this out, and you can understand it's a big piece of work with the various number of lay employees that are across our various districts. So we're consulting with the HR team and Connection and taking legal advice when we need to from an employment solicitor. And of course, most importantly, consulting with our lay employees, and that process is ongoing. And we plan in the future also to have conversations with those who are line managers of our lay employees as well. So there's still quite a lot of work to do on that, but we're sort of managing that process at the moment. And we are conscious that it's quite a stressful time for our lay employees. We've assured them that no redundancy will be made or anything like that, but it's still stressful. And so I asked you if you would hold them all in your prayers as we go through this process with them, as we sort everything out to do with the employment situations. And that's a brief update really of where we're at.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Ruth. We're now going to move to finance.
Cheryl Anderson, from the Liverpool district, and I chair the finance subgroup. And I'm not a financial person, so I have a script that's been provided to me by the people who are doing most of the work, to be honest. But the finance subgroup actually has been a really constructive and very positive experience as the treasurers from the different districts have come together and have started to contribute information and advice and context from each of the districts currently to enable us to actually consolidate the finances across 5 districts, which is not a small undertaking. So the main items that we've been dealing with to date, reviewing the 22-23 accounts and consolidation of the 5 district budgets for 23-24. Okay, so getting that together and recognizing that each of the districts has a slightly different system for producing a budget, and in the first instance making a decision that it's too complicated and we don't have enough time to come up with a brand new overall scheme for everybody, so that the budget for the coming year 24-25 will be based on whatever the budget was or would have been for the original district. It's just a much more straightforward way of doing it. And that the consequent assessment for that will be consistent with what it would have been had there been no change. So that involves starting to construct a budget for 24-25, which I think we're well on the way to having completed. So determining the district assessment for each of the circuits for 24-25, and the base way of doing that is actually it's based on each circuit's 23-24 assessment with an uplift of 2.3%, because that to allow for inflation. Okay, we've reviewed the DAF status of each district, the projects that are being funded out of DAF, the other activities that are being funded out of the District Advance Fund, which is what DAF stands for. And projected the position we expect to be in at September 2024. At the moment, we're confident that the money coming into the District Advance Fund for the coming year will be more than sufficient to cover the current demands on the District Advance Fund. We've also reviewed the financial status of the various new places for new people projects that are happening in the different districts currently, and making sure that we're clear about what money needs to continue to be set aside to enable those projects to carry on for the future. We've reviewed the reserves levels and agreed an integration provision to cover one-off costs in the first year or so. And although this is actually not on my crib sheet, I think it's also important to say that we're trying to look at a way of ensuring that we've got funds that will be needed to get us through a transitional period. We cannot expect to go through this process and move from 5 districts to 1 district without there being some period of time between, as we move into the new district. That's going to require some resources. So we're looking to make sure we've got money set aside and available to cover transitional arrangements that will need to be put in place. Okay. And oops, there's one more thing on this list. We're specified and costed finance reporting and transaction processing role, and basically the cost of doing the financial work that's needed, we've looked at what that might look like. And certainly the most cost-effective way of doing that is to recommend that TCC, Transforming Churches and Communities, who are currently helping us with this process, should actually be appointed to carry on that particular piece of work for the future. Okay. The main things that have happened since the last Equip session, there's a representative of the finance subgroup who now attends the staffing subgroup, which Ruth just explained what the staffing subgroup are doing, because clearly there are going to be connections between what the staffing subgroup want to do, and there will be financial implications for that. So as a way of making sure we don't get at cross purposes, a member of the finance subgroup attends the staffing subgroup. And we've also been involved in the preparation for the transferring of employees into a new body, and those consultations with staff. I think I've got one more thing to talk about. Oh yes, so the planning stuff for the future, I can just read off a list of things that we need to make sure we've got in place already or have thought about before the new district comes into being. We need to make sure that we've got an integrated payroll system, that we've got policies about people's expenses and how claims are to be made, what levels of authorization we need to have for actually spending money. We need to think about integrating pensions, manse costs, leases, direct debits and standing orders. We need to agree an accounting system, reports, an amalgamation of bank, CFB and TMCP accounts. And then one of the first things that the new synod will need to do is to appoint an auditor. So there are audit requirements as well. And then finally, we also need to work out the process for closing the 4 residual districts' accounts after the 31st of August 2024. If you have got questions, it's quite likely I won't be able to answer them, but there were probably people here present who can. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Thank you. So we're now going to move on to Phil Goff, who will report on the mission area subgroup. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. I just love Cheryl's rider at the end there. If people have got questions, I might not be able to answer them, but somebody who's here might be able to. The mission area subgroup says what it is on the tin. And the thing to report, which we've already heard from Hubs and Governance, is a big thank you to all of the synods for approving the nominations that were presented to you for the mission area leads that we were able to look at those synods for Greater Manchester Plus and for Lancashire. We believe that there is an announcement coming soon about a nomination for Cumbria, so we're really delighted to look forward to that coming to our synods electronically soon. And I do invite you to be praying for the re-advertisement for the mission area lead deputy chair for Liverpool mission area. But great to have some of those appointments approved. And we're hoping that the newly appointed mission area leads will be able to join the mission area subgroup. So please do pray for the remaining role to be filled for Liverpool Plus, and for each of those new mission area leads and the circuits from which they're giving some time. That's obviously going to be something that is being worked through with the circuits that are being made to release time for them to do the mission area lead deputy chair role. So plenty to be praying for in those situations. The mission area subgroup is now planning a day event to draw people together. We're inviting sections of people from across the 5 districts to come together to begin to look at how we bring 5 different district mission plans together. Each district already has a mission plan, so we're not starting with a blank sheet of paper, but bringing the gifts, the charisms that we each have, but beginning to shape principles and priorities for the mission plan for the new North West England district. So that will bring together staff members we already know will be part of the North West England district, including the mission area leads, the subgroup, but also representatives from a wide range of missional activities across the North West England district. So we noticed on the feedback that's come from previous equipped sessions, the encouragement to draw together those who are involved in, for example, city centre ministry or rural ministry or schools ministry and other chaplaincies, pioneer ministers. So an opportunity to bring a whole range of people together to begin to look at what a mission plan might look like for the North West England district. So once again, I just encourage you please to be praying as we put plans together. There are representatives from the Learning Network who are going to help facilitate that day. I'm very grateful to them, of course, for their continued contribution into the whole process that we're a part of. So asking for lots of prayer for all of those things as the mission area subgroup plan to meet together before our regional review groups, which happen every month. We've one next week, so hopefully then we will approve the day and the venue for this event and begin to get the invitations out. Jill, I think that's the update. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say, and I know it will come up in another person's report very, very soon, but just an encouragement for us to be sharing the exciting missional projects that are already happening in our district. There is an opportunity for us to feature missional activities, missional projects in our at least weekly Facebook and online social media presence. So if there are things happening in your circuit, in your district, in your local church, that it would be good to promote and let others know, then the North West England District Facebook page and all the development of those things, please do think of promoting what you're doing. So we're sharing the good news stories that are happening around the district currently, that we'll all be a part of in the North West England District soon. Thank you, Jill.
Okay, thanks very much, Phil. Thank you for all that. We'll now move to Carolyn Hothersall for the property report. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thanks, Jill. For those of you who have been at these equip sessions before, you might notice that there isn't really a lot of change in terms of the property report. Our property subgroup is mainly the district property secretaries, and we have already identified a list of all the properties which are district-owned properties. We're not touching anything that's in circuits. All circuit things will remain with yourselves in your circuits. So we're just looking at district properties, so manses and any other buildings. And we've identified which are the manses which we will need to retain for continued use, and which are then going to be vacated and will be available either for leasing or for selling, depending on the need in those particular areas. Obviously, that's going to involve some liaising with the finance group. We need to be able to talk together and make sure that the two things that we're planning relate to each other perfectly well. As Ruth said earlier, we're looking at the district property secretary's role, and that's now been handed over to the staffing group to continue the progress work on there. We are continuing to make progress on the consents process, because at the moment each district has its own particular way of accessing those, and we need to make sure that when we all come together, those who need to can access the whole of the new district. And that just remains to look at district offices, and as and where district offices are required, we can look at the best locations for those, if indeed they are required at all. At the moment, districts rent spaces from within churches and within other buildings, and that might be a pattern that we continue in the new district. That's still up for discussion and so on. And I think that's about it in terms of where we're up to with the property subgroup. But a big thank you to those who have the skills and the knowledge to be able to bring valuable insights into our group. Thank you, Jill.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. That's great. We'll now move to Peter Gregson, who will give us an update on the communications subgroup. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, thank you, Jill. Good evening, everyone. An update from the communications subgroup, which I chair, and very ably supported with some great colleagues from right around the new district. Just wanted to give you a bit of a flavour about some of the things we're working on at the moment. Those of you who were with us last month will have heard me mention something called an infographic that we're producing for the new district, which is a visual representation of the new district and how it's going to work. We'd hoped to have produced that by now. It's proved a little bit more tricky than we expected for a variety of reasons, but we hope to publish that, I hope, next week sometime. And I hope that will help everyone to understand how the new district fits together, who's doing what, and how everything fits together and is going to work from September. So please do look out for that in your mailings as it comes through. The other thing that we're working on at the moment, Phil mentioned the new mission area leads, and I know that many of you have watched the interviews that we recorded with James Tebbett and Phil Goff when they were appointed. We're going to be publishing some similar videos next week with some of the newly appointed mission area leads. So please do keep an eye out for that. And it's an opportunity really just to get to know some of these mission area leads if you don't know them already. Get a bit of a flavour of what they're all about. So please do look out for that. We've also been continuing to write content for the website, which we're working on at the moment. We're trying to take the best of all the existing district websites and make it a super website, and we're working hard to do that. So we'll obviously announce when that is ready to go live. And Phil slightly stole my thunder.
Enough now.
Facebook page. I know that many of you have liked and commented and shared posts from the North West England District Facebook page, and I just repeat Phil's the request really that if you've got something that's really good that's happening in your part of the district, please do tell us. We'd love to hear about it. We'd love to feature it and put it on the Facebook page, and write a longer piece if we can. So I think that would be a really good thing to do. If you've got anything like that, please use the email address nwedcommunication@outlook.com, and we'll respond to you very quickly. Thank you very much. To you, Jill. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, so I'm going to report now on the admin and IT subgroup. We are a newer subgroup. We were only set up in March, but since our last webinar, we've had a meeting at the Victoria Hall to have a look at the venue and the IT that is there already, to see what can be used and what needs to be brought in for the launch event and for Synod in September. We've arranged for the launch event to be live streamed, and we've planned for a practice run of that. So please pray for us as we figure that out and get that set up. We've discussed booking systems for future district events, and we've discussed gathering the information needed to create things like the new database of all the 5 districts, information coming together ready for September, and we will be working with district administrators on all that as well, so that'll be cross-working. I'll now hand over to Phil Jackson, who's going to say something briefly on the IT side of Synod. So thank you, Phil.
So yes, the launch service will be live streamed just via YouTube, but the Synod will have kind of Zoom capability as well. That's all taking shape. I've got a projector behind me because I've spent the afternoon kind of like playing with screens and seeing how that might all work with how many screens you need for a Synod. I think the only thing that we're just pondering, which might need a little bit more work, is if people gather in one church, kind of more locally for Synod rather than just on their home Zoom, how we might do voting in that sense. But having kind of been at the very first conference online when COVID hit, we can do that kind of online voting, and since then in the room voting. That hybrid way is easy. It's just if there's a few of you on one computer that we might need to just think about how we do that, but all taking shape and hopefully will be as smooth as possible so that some of you can be at home and some of you can be in the room. Thank you, Jill.